Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back all in London. Today we're going to be carrying on with February's exceptional story, The Tale of Old Fritz. And we're going down to Wolfstag Docks to meet the doomed diver to begin our hunt. The doomed diver waits at a forlorn jetty at Wolfstag Docks. There is a ribbon tied around their forearm, already mouldering. They regard you with a bleak resignation as you approach, as though waiting for a decision to be made for them.
I've rough coordinates for where the Incredulous sank, provisions for the fortnight at Z, and I took the liberty of bringing aboard a cask of whiskey from the Maundy.
They look around, as though searching for another reason to remain, and finding none, set their shoulders.
All aboard, if you're ready to hunt a beast.
Okay, so why delay? What comes? Be prepared to leave London for a while. Before embarking on your journey, we recommend that you're watchful, shadowy, dangerous and persuasive, at least 25. As always, I think we're within those margins. And let's set sail. The doomed diver, much less reticent when it comes to your crew. They have gifts for all, and in a matter of days have learned all their names. It is only when you've been at Z for a few days that their old darkness returns, and they shutter themselves in their cabin, alone with their memories. Somewhere ahead, the origin of those memories awaits. Closer and closer, every day. An exceptional journey. You are travelling to the Incredulous and find yourself in home waters not too far from London. Is there any special options in here, or just teaching me how to sail? Let's just sail around, shall we? A giant angler crab. We could try and fight it. Ready the guns and fire at its soft spots. Giant or no, it's only a damned crab. We failed a 90% check. Oh no! Over and over again, your ship fires a volley and has to quickly change course as one of the thing's claws threatens to swipe you out of the ocean. After hours of fighting, one of the shells opens a crack in its carapace. The crab retreats back into the Z, admitting defeat. The sailor's celebration is muted and queasy. Something about the beast's eyes suggests an intention to find your ship again. Let's try something a little easier, shall we? A navigational error. Consider what we learned of the starved men. We have 100% chances of success. I have read a lot of these in my Evolution series, so if you want to know more about jetting around the ocean of fallen London, that is probably the place to go. We become a pirate. It's good fun. So I am just going to kind of quickly go through these until we get to where we need to go, because unless something unique happens, I've read them all a million times. Oh, we made our way to Shepherd's Wash. Something slither in the water. Are those birds flitting in the distance, the fabled blue prophets? Shepherd's Wash is a place of monsters. It is also the closest part of the Z to the mountain's light. The waters are choppy and tinged with blooms of green and brown algae. The Sea of Voices? Are your clothes always this tight? The region of the Z around Polythreme, the home of claymen, clothes colonies and all manner of animate objects. Tales abound of things rebelling against their masters here. Ropes, tools, perhaps even entire ships. And here we are. After 7 days at Z, she comes to you. Is it a dream? All of the black water's funeral bells are tolling, and she comes, candle-lit, across the dark mirror. But she does not walk on water. No, with each footfall, trailing her muslin gown along the waves, she pulls the water down, whirlpools spinning in her wake. She reaches you and walks past. The riptide pulls you in. The yawning Z swallows you down. You can struggle. Death comes swiftly at Z, heralded by the toll of funeral bells. There are candles in the Z if you fall far enough. There are places below the waves. Drowned Anth, De Hut, Scrimshander. You pass them all as the adumbration of your racing heart sounds out your waning hours. She follows your fall, lantern afore her, like an angler fish chasing its lure. She catches you where the Z opens in a great rent, and a darkness spills out like poisoned ink. She leads you in and shows you where one day you might rest. She shows you where she will write your name, and shows you the tools by which she might do it. She smiles and says 2 words in the deep. Found you. You wake, your sheets covered in salt. You are still above the waves, far out at Z. Your ship rocks and bobs against the gentle waves of the Black Z. Above, the false stars twinkle in the heights of the roof. Whole constellations sway and change, as if the lights themselves were floating on the surface of the Z. The journey has been long, and your sleep uneasy. At last, the doomed diver leaves their cabin. A bell tolls somewhere in the distance. Another ship? An island? It's impossible to say. The memory of the nightmare hangs heavy upon you. Looking out into the horizon provides nothing but the gaping emptiness of the Neath. Perhaps the diver can offer some distraction. Let's ask how they felt when they saw Old Fritz. Was it awe? Terror? Some unholy admixture of the two? The doomed diver fixes you with a grim expression.
It was like a mountain rising from the depths. Our meagre lamplights could barely scratch the surface of its cursed flesh. As it descended into the Z, I let out a cry so foul that the boatswain's ears bled.
They trace a finger from their ear down to their cheek to demonstrate the flow of blood.
Poor lass went mad and jumped into the water to follow the creature herself. And its tail,
they resume, after a pause so long you thought them finished.
As big as 2 of our ships together, but not half so gnarled.
Why did they leave the Incredulous? There are still gaps in the doomed diver's story, and you wish to know more. The doomed diver looks over the side of the ship into the blackness of the Z, then sighs.
There was an incident, one that made me question my sanity. The Z drove someone I loved mad.
A sigh escapes their chapped lips.
It made me realize I needed to rethink my life.
They turn to you now, a glare in their eyes that makes you feel like they're accusing you of something.
I left for a good reason, damn it. I made a life of my own.
They slam a fist onto the banister.
You've seen my wife and daughter. I have no regrets for my choices.
I can probe them further for the truth. This anger isn't directed at you. It's at themselves. Why?
Damn you, damn it all,
curses the doomed diver as they gaze at the Z. Stand back as they gulp in the fitted air of the Neath.
It was our last voyage together. Me and the captain.
They clear their throat.
Stirred on by our sighting of a monster, we gave chase, but we hit its wake with such force, the captain was thrown overboard.
They sigh.
We nearly didn't find him in time, and when we did, he was mad, raving about seeing.
They cough.
About seeing her. The wraith of the deep. Lady Black. No, worse than just seeing her. Being compelled by her.
Interesting. Lady Black, we met Lady Black in Sunless Seas. If I remember, I'll put a link to the episode. But if you just search Sunless Seas Lady Black, my name, it'll probably come up. Because I have a terrible memory of linking videos to things that are related to them. What did he say about her? Superstitious sailors swap tales of a wraith in the deep. Deep in their cups, some whisper she offers comfort to those lost beneath the waves. Others hint that she offers far worse than that. The doomed diver shakes their head.
He was sick. The captain. His brain, you see. Starved of oxygen it was. He burned hot as hell as we made our return. During that voyage, he cried her name. Told me through the delirium that she'd offered to take him into her fold. To hold him tight and keep him safe.
You recall your time on the island of Merid, and how the people there bargained with Lady Black for their survival. She has been a drowning person's last hope before. Perhaps she took pity on the captain too. That's another exceptional story, I believe. Meredith. I cannot remember the name of that exceptional story, but it's in the playlist.
Even if there was any truth to his babbling, I wanted no part of it, nor the Z that had laid its claim on him. I left the ship next time we made port and never looked back. Till now. And I felt its calling. The dreams. When I felt... well, that's no matter.
Well, let's peer over the side. The light can only be coming from one place. Underneath you. You and the doomed diver look over the side. Eerie lights illuminate a bulk in the deep below, far beneath the waves. Something moves into view. A ship.
It's her, the doomed diver cries out. By hell, it's the Incredulous.
Stumble back from the side of your vessel, their face growing pale. You ask how they can be so sure.
It's just like my dreams, they cry. The bastard has sought me out.
Is this some trick of the Z? How could the Incredulous appear so suddenly? And what does this mean for your expedition? From below the waves, a rumble bubbles to the surface, as if something large had just settled on the bottom. The shockwave reverberates upwards to greet you. Then the black Z around you suddenly grows brighter. An eerie glow blossoms, shrouding the two of you in a sickly green light. The lost hulk of the Incredulous drifts below you. The object of your search brought miraculously to your feet. Now we have two options. Suggest it's a sign. If it truly is the Incredulous beneath you, then you should descend into the depths and investigate. Or we can suggest turning back. Scouring the sea for a monster is one thing, but long dead ships appearing out of nowhere is quite another. It's a sign. What possibly could go wrong? You head for the doomed diver, taking their shoulders in your hands and pulling them to their feet. They look at you, eyes wide and fearful. You tell them that clearly the Neath has given them a chance to atone for their guilt, imagined or not. Why else would the ship appear now and in such a manner? The diving suits you'd brought just in case, stand tied to their storage racks. You pick up your diving helm. Now's the time to don this gear. There's a mystery to be solved. They nod.
Then let's solve it.
The doomed diver unclasps your heavy rubber diving suit and hands it over. You're surprised by the weight, the unyieldingness of the material, and the smell of salt that seems to permeate the unpleasantly damp suit. The Z is quiet once more. In front of you, the doomed diver struggles to push themselves into their gear. You look over the side once more, confirming that indeed the Incredulous still lies there. Well, it's time to find out what lies on the ship that dared to seek Old Fritz. You shove a foot awkwardly into the leg of the suit. The thick, rubbery walls squeak and flop around it, and you need to exert yourself just to guide your foot into the boot of the damned thing. Eventually, with much huffing, you stand, red-faced, buckled into the weighted contraption.
It'll be much lighter when we get into the Z,
says the doomed diver.
And don't worry about our oxygen. These are extra long lines. Just in case.
With that, the doomed diver steps off the deck and falls into the Z. You double-check your oxygen line, then do the same. The wreck rests underfoot, a small oasis in the bleak desert of the Unterzee. Small creatures dance and swirl above and to the sides of the sunken vessel. So, we have a couple of options here. We can go below deck, perhaps answers can be found further inside the wreck. We can go out into the Z, the whirling void of the Unterzee weighs heavily all around you. Look at the ship from the outside, that you might examine the hull and topmost decks. Or we can look at the strange rigging. It hangs like a basket over the port side of the ship. This is a watchful quality check. Let's start with that one. It takes you a moment to work out what you're looking at. Mouldering ropes lie slack, waving in the currents of the Z, like a dozen horrid worms crawling onto the ship. Why are they here? You search your memory, and the diver mimes a capture. It's to hold the Z creature so it can be transported back to port. More common on Shellonet ships, less so on London vessels. Could the Incredulous have constructed this to contain large specimens for later study? You turn back, pondering this as you go. And that's one of the things we're looking for. Okay. Let's start on the outside of the ship and then work our way in. You make your way out of the wreck, out of the false safety of the ship's floors and doors. All around you is darkness, save for what little illumination your struggling lantern can provide. In the distance, you think you can see shapes glide through the water. Trick of the eyes. Or so you hope. Okay, so we can search the hull for signs of damage. You don't want to go over the side of the ship, but you must. With a lump rising in your throat, grab onto the railings and pull yourself over the side of the Incredulous. After a short descent, you land on the silty bottom of the Z floor. It's not long before you spot what you've been looking for: damage to the hull. You've seen ships as they've limped back to London missing chunks of their hull, either from the teeth of beasts or the cannonballs of other ships, but nothing that resembles this. The hole isn't serrated, jagged metal, but instead simply punctured, like a hole punched through paper. Let's investigate those marks, shall we? They're not like anything you've seen before. You look around the edges of the holes, still unable to imagine what caused them. Each one is a different shape to the other. If they were teeth marks, they'd be uniform in spacing and shape, but these are neither. Just as you're about to abandon this line of inquiry and head back up, you spot something wedged into one of the holes. Prizing it from its resting place, you make out that it's some kind of oddly shaped, moss-covered stone. How did such an object find its way down here? Interesting. Well, let's investigate the weaponry. Something seems off about them. Too numerous and too specific to be standard issue for a craft of this nature. Two large, cannon-like objects sit at the bow of the ship. You've not known many research vessels to carry such weaponry. Simple cannons for protection, of course, but these are not those. They're harpoons. The Z is treacherous, brimming with all manner of creatures and pirates ready to take down a ship. But why would a research vessel arm itself with harpoons? To hunt whales! You've seen enough, let's go back to the main deck. And I think it might be time to go below decks. Perhaps further answers can be found inside the wreck. You carefully tread the rotting wooden steps down into the belly of the Incredulous. Puffs of silt swirl up with each footfall, clouding the water and threatening to further impede the weak glow from your lantern. Finally, you reach the bottom and the darkness swallows you almost completely. Through this, your lantern's beam illuminates a cramped hallway with a couple of doors on either side. Signs above them denote crew quarters and hold. Well, let's start by searching the crew quarters. The personal effects of sailors can tell a lot about a ship. The room, much like the rest of the ship, is a mess. Bunks lie tangled and overturned on top of each other. Footlockers, cracked and broken, have spilled their contents across the floor, and rotten clothes sit nestled amongst the silt. You rummage through the mess, careful not to disturb the silt, but find little in return. Until, that is, you feel a crunch under your foot. Looking down, you see a little ring of gravestones? The small headstones seem to be sprouting from the floor. Why would a crew member like this? Okay, let's search the hold. It's chaos. Maybe you can push through to discover what this ship was carrying. A tangle of metal shelves, wooden barrels, and rotten canvases lines the enormous space dedicated to the hold. Whatever provisions and equipment the Incredulous was carrying, it clearly needed a lot of storage. You pull away some of the sodden canvas, which falls to pieces in your fingers, and maneuver your way deeper into the room. Past the debris, you find another room, with a sign reading Blubber Room. Strange. Get an uneasy feeling as you look around. The oil cask, the metal barrels. All of this would be more fitting in a whaling ship than a research vessel. Something's not right. You've seen enough. The strange rigging, the harpoon guns, the blubber room. No research vessel would have all these on board. Only one type of ship would carry these modifications. A monster hunter's. Whatever the Incredulous was originally meant for, it has since changed. Look around, trying to find the doomed diver's lantern light in the inky void. They're moving towards you at speed, bounding through the current. Before you can react, your lantern catches eerie reflections in the water. Much closer. Eyes. Drowny's eyes. 24 or more, and all of them surrounding you. You are not alone. You were never alone. And sadly, I think this is where I'm going to end this episode. What a cliffhanger. Isn't that fantastic? But I want to thank you all very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. Thank you again to the members of the channel and the coffee supporters. It really does mean the world to me. It helps me keep the channel going. And as always, I'll see you all next time.